The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, I want to say it's good to be back live again. Second time this week. It's the first time I've been live twice in a week in a long time, so it's good to start to develop a little bit of consistency here. But it's good to be here. Hope everybody's well. I know it's been a bit of a. There's not really any big time boxing going on today. We got like Mayweather against John Gotti the third. That's going on. A little card in Philadelphia going on with Nahir Albright and Chris Colbert. But really and truthfully, there's not really anything I would say overly, exciting in boxing this week. So listen, I'm here. I'm gonna be here for an hour. Y'all want to get your questions in? Get them in. Please, if you're stopping in live, don't be stingy now. Smash that like button, and so that YouTube knows that you guys are really rocking with your boy BT and the Untouchable True School Sports Empire. Lot of interesting things we could talk about. I mean, for everything we got Shakur Stevenson signing with Matt True, and we got the Jerron Ennis, Brian Norman situation. You got Joe Cordina versus Shakur Stevenson. That got announced. Joe Cordina split to Tony Sim. There's all kinds of things to talk about. So we'll get into all of that all here, and we'll feel it out. I'm planning on going live for an hour, but if it really picks up, if it really gets lit, if it really gets the way it should be here on True School Sports, maybe we'll go an hour and a half. We'll see. But good to be here. Good to be seen. For all five of you guys that are here, smash that like button. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Let me know what city, what state, what continent you guys know. We're in the fight capital right now. We're in the Las Vegas, the new home of True School Sports. So definitely go ahead and let me know where you're from. We got Jesus M in the building. He says, "Saludos BT. Who do you got, Lester Martinez or Joe Sean James?" Now I've been seeing you comment that a lot in the videos. Jesus M. That's a great fight. People who don't know their boxing. People who don't know their boxing don't really understand how good of a fight that is, because you got Lester Martinez, who just raw punching power wise, just really, really dangerous, explosive fighter. He's the face of Guatemalan boxing, but apart from being like one of the only top level contenders from Guatemala in boxing, in professional boxing, he also trains with Terrence Crawford and Bomac, and they speak lonely of him. So, Joe Sean James, I forgot who he fought, but Joe Sean James, he's from Northern California, wiry, strong. That's going to be an explosive fight. I can't give an official prediction because I haven't really got into the tape or the film study. But what I will say is this: they can both crack, but I think Lester Martinez does have an advantage in punch power. So if it becomes a fight where there's exchanges, I would give the slight edge to Lester Martinez. But it's really a pick 'em from what I remember off memory. But ask me after I do my video about it, my official video, because when I do my official video, that means that'll have meant that I've went ahead and watched their fights, and I can give you a much better answer. But it's a good fight. That I know enough about them to both know that it's an amazing fight. And by the way, guys, I wanna say, guys, happy anniversary. This week is the 2-week anniversary of that fateful night 2 weeks ago in Albuquerque when Angelo Leo beat the brakes off Renato Lopez and got the knockout of the year. So, we're still celebrating here on True School Sports. We're still coming off the high of that here on True School Sports. But yeah, one of you guys asked me a question about Angelo. You said, did Angelo Leo get a brain bleed? No, Angelo Leo did not get a brain bleed that fight. Angelo Leo had some swelling. He had, a little bit of swelling because obviously Renato can punch, he can crack. He didn't get to where he got to because of his skills, like his pure boxing skills or his defense. He got to that level because of his athleticism and punching power. And his punching power was real. So, yeah, there was some swelling. But, no brain bleed for Angelo. Angelo came out clean, for the most part, clean as a whistle. Shout out to my guy, David Esther, a longtime viewer of the channel. He says, BT, with as much as we praise Abdullah, does anyone think there could be a possibility he has the man streak or lacking a chin against the likes of Ashton Silva or Trayvon Marshall? Now, those are really intriguing, potential opponents if Top Rank would decide to go that route. Because, first of all, you named two guys, one from PBC and one from Most Valuable Promotions. You named two guys that are both coming off of devastating knockout losses. Trayvon Marshall got beat up by, was it Maestre? and Ashton Silva got absolutely put in the dirt by Lucas Body. So when you get knocked out the way those guys did, and you get beat up the way those guys did, the question always becomes is how does that affect them psychologically moving forward? Because most of the time, those kind of fighters, they get a bit gun shy. If they have any sort of problems making the weight, the weight cut and the lack of fluid around their brain, it affects their punch resistance. So it's a good question. But stylistically speaking, I mean, I personally think Ashton Silva would be a great fight for Abdullah. Style-wise, I favor Abdullah heavily in that fight because Abdullah Mason's a sharpshooter. He likes to punch between the guard. Silva's stance, the way he throws punches, the way he likes to operate, I just think it goes well for what Abdullah does. So, Trayvon Marshall, I was never really the highest on Trayvon Marshall. He's talented, but, I never really was high on him like other people were. But I think Abdullah beat them both. But, look, they fight the fights for a reason. I wouldn't foresee any massive problems being given by those guys to Abdullah, but, we'll see how it goes. Are there rumors are the rumors true that Tank might be fighting Ryle Valenzuela? That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like, Ryle. This is always a fight. I know PBC always wanted to do this fight. I know Al Heyman and the parties involved at PBC. This is always a fight they were interested in making. And now, I guess that now that he's champion, now that he beat one of their money guys, I would say that's a fight they're looking forward to. But we'll see. I was hearing rumor that November 2nd was the day they were gonna do the fight. That doesn't make any sense because November 2nd is already reserved at the T-Mobile Arena because they were saying November 2nd, T-Mobile Arena. November 2nd at the T-Mobile Arena is already occupied because the Las Vegas Golden Knights have a game that day. The hockey team, they have a game that day. So you can't do a stage a fight on that day if they're playing on that day. So I didn't believe the date. I didn't believe the venue when I heard it, but I do believe that is a fight that PBC is going to look towards. It just sounds like a PBC fight that they look towards. Did Angelo feel Lopez's power? Yeah, he was a good puncher. I mean, from what Angelo's told me, he was a good puncher, but wasn't as fast as he thought he'd be. He looks faster on tape than he did in the ring. A good fight that I'm looking forward to is Thomas Matisse versus Rocky Hernandez. They got Matisse at a plus 220, and we know Rocky doesn't have a good chance. That's one of those fights that's really going under the radar. I've seen it on the boxing schedule a couple times when I went and looked at the boxing schedule. That's an amazing fight. I love that fight. Matisse has always been a guy that for, what is he at? Was he at 130, 135? Whatever. He's a big guy for the weight class he fights in. Has no problems coming forward, has no problems exchanging. And we know Rocky Hernandez has no problems exchanging, which was to his detriment when he fought O'Shaquie Foster. So that's a good fight. I would really advise everyone. I think with the date on that one, I believe it's like September 14th or September 16th, something like that. Check that fight out. Whatever day it's out on. Check that fight out. It's a good one. Listen, man, why y'all being stingy? First of all, I was getting everyone was telling me, they said, BT, you gotta come live. We missed the lives. And now I'm live, and there's 11 of you here, and I only got 3 likes. What's going on, people? What's going on? Smash that like button. Why was Ferko the main voice in Venato's corner? I don't know. That's not my business. I don't know anything about the inner workings of their team. I don't know. That's on them. I don't know. All I can tell you about is that Angelo's prepared, and that's why things happened the way they did. But listen, it's not just about that fight. I kind of want to move on from it because there's a lot going on in boxing right now. You know what? Let's talk about some things in boxing. But you guys can ask your questions. I'll get to your questions. I'll answer this one last question before I get into some of my talking points here. Flatbush BK, shout out to him. He says, "And Billy versus Canelo. Do you think that might be next?" No. I don't think it makes. I mean, maybe it could be. I mean, Canelo can he's allowed to do what he wants because of the money he generates. I've never really thought that the Billy fight was a fight that he would take. Not because he's scared of him, and not because I think it's an overly dangerous fight. I just don't think there's enough money in it for Canelo. See, look. People are shitting on the Edgar Berlanga fight, but the Edgar Berlanga fight is just par for the course. Canelo's being a businessman, all right? Mexico, Puerto Rico equals a lot of money. And I know people will say Edgar Berlanga is not a quote unquote real Puerto Rican, right? And they want to play that whole game, but he has Puerto Rican like artists and celebrities behind him. He does have some. He does. Listen, I'm telling you guys right now. You guys can talk all the shit you want. I've been to Edgar Berlanga fights. He does have Puerto Rican fans. He does have a fan base, and there is going to be that dynamic when they do promote the fight. So that's why that played a big role in why Canelo's fighting him, along with the fact that obviously he thinks he can beat him, and he thinks it's a very favorable fight that makes him look good. And it's not Dave Benavidez, right? So hold on, let me charge my computer. So that's why it's happening. And Billy doesn't have that. And Billy's from Cameroon or Canada by way of, I believe, Cameroon or one of the African countries. And I don't think it would command the same kind of money. So I don't think it winds up happening next. That's just my personal opinion. But if it did, obviously, and Billy is a really fun fighter to watch. I think in Billy versus anybody at 168 is a really good fight. Jesus M brought up the fact that in Billy versus Munguia is the fight that Top Rank is gonna make, right, or trying to make, and I think that too. I think that's a fight that is, first of all, stylistically, it's a very fun fight. It's an all action fight. It's a TV friendly fight. You know, Jaime Munguia is a fighter that I think, you know, his main promoters, because whether he's like there's a bunch of confusion now between Oscar promoting Munguia or Top Rank, whoever the hell is promoting him. They're not the main people involved. The main people involved for Munguia's career is Fernando Beltran, the fine folks at Zanford Promotions, and I think Zanford Promotions, who have the main, you know, say-so in his career, they're going to want to rebuild him. And I think fights against guys like Eric Bosnian, Christian, and Billy, these are the kind of fights that would do that for him, because Munguia, both those guys are dangerous. Both those guys can beat him, but both those guys are very vulnerable, and they have very exciting styles that will mesh well. So if he can come through those two fights, that right there puts Munguia back on a better trajectory, you know. So that's why I think they're going. But shout out to everyone here. It's your boy BT, Brendan Taylor, in the afternoon. If you're on the West Coast, of course. If you're on the East Coast, then it's the evening time. It's the Untouchable True School Sports Empire, going live, trying to catch that rhythm that I was in when I was in South Florida. So it's good to be here. Lot to talk about. David Esther, he brought up about Shakur Stevenson, Joe Cordina, and he asked the question: do you think the reason Shakur is fighting Cordina is because he just absolutely can't get other good fighters in the ring with him, like Otaro Enossian and Sugar Nunez, for example? No, I don't think that's the reason. I think if Cordina stayed at 130 and he wanted to fight the guys like Sugar Nunez and Otaro Enossian, those guys would have more than be happy to fight a guy like Joe Cordina, who's been, you know, IBF champion multiple times. That fight's not happening because, I mean, those fights aren't happening. Listen, if those guys get offered big name fights, being that Otaro Enossian, Eduardo Sugar Nunez, they're gonna take the fights. All right, they're gonna go ahead. They're gonna take the fights. They're gonna do what they gotta do. It's Joe Cordina who don't want to fight those guys. And we know that Joe Cordina was never eager to fight certain guys at 130. He wouldn't even want to... He didn't even want to unify with O'Shaquie Foster, so it's not on those guys. What I'll say is this. As far as Joe Cordina and Shakur, and for the next, like, 5 minutes or so, let's camp out on Shakur Stevenson and Matchroom and Shakur Stevenson and Joe Cordina, okay? So we'll start with Shakur Stevenson signing to Matchroom. He's officially Eddie Hearn fighter. Anybody who really can connect the dots and is smart and logical, you guys would have been able to put together a long time ago that Shakur Stevenson, once he left Top Rank, was going to go to Eddie Hearn. Because why? Eddie Hearn is the only promoter that is going to be willing to pay him above market value. You know, the term we use for paying somebody above market value would be to overpay them, right? And so they went ahead and they were gonna overpay Shakur Stevenson. You know, he's going to fight. He's gonna fight in Saudi, co-main event. Better be at Bivol, and he's fighting Joe Cordina. Now, they're supposed. The deal is 2 fights. They're looking at doing Cordina first. They're looking at doing Zepeda next, and then try to work out a tank fight. Now, I'll be honest with you, Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is a guy that, for as great a promoter as he is, for as amazing of a mouthpiece as he is, he's never really built an American star. I know Jaron Ennis is going in a good direction because Jaron Ennis just sold 15,000 tickets in Philadelphia, but he's never really built an American star. the guys like Andrade and these kind of fighters, you know, nobody has signed to Eddie Hearn and become a superstar, right? So that right there makes me feel like Shakur Stevenson's career, while I think he'll be able to get some good fights, make some good money, win some titles even, I think it's a situation where his career could possibly go to die in the sense of like getting the big fight. Because we know Gervonta Davis calls the shots, and if it gets to a place where they say, you know what, we don't want you to be with Eddie Hearn, we want you to be with PBC, we want you to be with Al Heyman, then it is what it is. Then that's what's gonna happen, and so that Eddie Hearn will be left out in the dark again. So I don't know. I'm really intrigued to see what Eddie Hearn does with Shakur Stevenson. I don't think, see, in this case, I don't think Eddie Hearn could do with Shakur Stevenson anything differently than Top Rank already did, because Top Rank already did what Eddie Hearn probably wants to do, which is box Shakur in Newark, which he's already done plenty of times. So I don't know, man. I'm not really too fond of the signing. But then again, it's like, okay, if he didn't sign with Eddie Hearn, what's he gonna do? Sign with Golden Boy? You know, what's Golden Boy gonna do with Shakur? You know, so he did what was best from a monetary standpoint, money wise, and hopefully it pans out for him. As far as the Joe Cordina fight, it's funny how boxing is, because if Shakur Stevenson would have taken this fight 2 years ago, let's say if it was the summer of 2022 when he fought Joe Cordina at 130, back then for a brief moment in time, Shakur Stevenson versus Joe Cordina was looked at to be the matchup at 130. But like Floyd Mayweather used to always say, timing is everything in boxing, as it is in life. And Shakur Stevenson, you know, he hasn't exactly lit the world on fire with his performances. Joe Cordina just lost to Anthony Kakachi, who nobody knew who he was before, you know, he got beat up. So it's looked at to be a pointless matchup. But it's an intriguing matchup because Joe Cordina has big amateur pedigree. Joe Cordina is now being trained under Ben Davison. You know, Ben Davison, smart trainer, smart man, good film study guy, knows his boxing. I think, you know, I don't think Joe will win, but I think Joe will be prepared for the fight. And not just that, one thing I'm really intrigued to see about Joe Cordina in this fight is him at 135, because for those of you who may not know, Joe Cordina was a 135 pounder. I remember many years ago, when I did my prospect review video on Joe Cordina back in 2017 or 2018, whatever year it was I did it, I remember watching Joe Cordina as a 135 pounder, and Joe Cordina at 135 was not that good. That's why I moved down to 130, because at 130 he had a size advantage, he was more explosive, he could punch harder, and it boded well for him. He was able to win a world title a couple of times, produce some pretty great moments in the ring, and you know, it went well for him. It could have went better if he had more ambition to unify, but he didn't. But I'm intrigued to see now that his body's matured, now that he's had more experience, how will Joe Cordina look as a lightweight? This is a very unique opportunity for him, because, guys, look, we've seen it in boxing earlier this year. What was I going to say? Sebastian Fundora, right? He got knocked out by Brian Mendoza last year. Coming off a loss, they give him a title shot, all right? They give him Fundora a title shot against Tim Tszyu. Not many people thought Fundora was going to beat Tim Tszyu, and now Fundora is a champion. So things can change quickly in boxing, and obviously I don't think Tim Tszyu is as skillful and as good of a fighter as Shakur Stevenson, but it's the same sort of scenario potentially playing itself out if Shakur Stevenson's not careful. So I'm looking, you know, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to see how that fight plays out. Let me see. Let's get us some more comments. We got my man Fenderman. He says, there's really only 8 likes. Yeah, only, come on, man. We got 9 likes. Get it to 10 at least. Get it to double digits. Shout out to you. BT, what are your thoughts on Pro Box trying to persuade the public that Hurd wins versus Rosario and then he's in line for the title next? It's just promotion. I mean, look, Pro Box, one thing I can say about Pro Box that I really do like is that this boxing game is very unforgiving to fighters with losses, to fighters that are past their best. And they give these guys that, you know, you would say are washed up former champions like Jason Rosario, Jarrett Hurd, Nicholas Walters, these kind of guys. They give them a chance to be on a good platform, to showcase their skills. And if they look good, you know, potentially maybe move on to bigger and better things, you know. So I like that aspect of it. But yeah, Rosario versus Hurd, I didn't watch the full fight. I saw a couple rounds. The middleweight division is so. The fight ended in a draw, but the middleweight division is so bad. It's so thin. It's so. It lacks so much depth that I think literally, like, yeah, it's actually not crazy that the winner of that fight could have been closer to a title shot, because that's how thin the division is. Let me see. Shout out to my man Jay. Says, tell Angelo Leo do not come to Japan and fight Tomoki Kameda. They will rob him, and 3150 Promotions sucks. I'll definitely relay that information to him. To be honest, look, there's only one fighter that I truly believe Angelo would have to go to Japan for, and it's not Tomoki Kameda. I think we all know who that fighter is. So, if Kameda wanted to fight an Angelo, I would be led to believe that, you know, he'd have to come to Albuquerque, New Mexico. You know, the place where big time boxing has been revived as of 2 weeks ago. So, there's only one fighter that I believe he's going to Japan for, and it's not Kameda. Let me see. I think Cordina might pull out the Shakur fight with a hand injury, but the fact that Shakur is scheduled to fight him is a disgraceful statement in the sport. My thing with the Shakur Cordina fight, and I want to address this here. I mean, I know there's not a lot of people here, so this probably won't even be seen by a lot of people, but I put out, you know, I've started to kind of keep my own personal pound for pound list, the True School Sports pound for pound list, and a lot of people were upset that I didn't have Shakur Stevenson on my pound for pound list, and really and truthfully, if we're talking about skills and talent, obviously Shakur Stevenson is a top 10 pound for pound fighter. But Shakur Stevenson cannot be on my pound for pound list because he just fought, what was the guy's name? The dude that Frank Martin lost to. Him, who I forgot his name right now. He was coming off a loss when Shakur fought him. Now he's fighting Joe Cordina, not just coming off of a loss, but coming into a new weight class, or a weight class that he hasn't been at for a very long time. So you can't call guys pound for pound when they're fighting. Like, he's probably gonna be what? Like, have the odds come out for the Shakur Cordina fight? What's the odds for this fight? It's probably gonna be like a 7-1 favorite or some crazy shit like that. Shakur Stevenson, Joe Cordina. Let's see. I want to see for myself. Joe Cordina, Shakur Stevenson odds. So right now, as of right now, let me see. Did they got the odds? Hold on. I want to see, like basically what I'm trying to say is, you can't give, if guys are 10-1 favorites, 12-1 favorites, 11-1 favorites, you can't keep, you know, putting these guys on that pedestal. At some point, you got to show and prove. And I don't want to hear that nobody wants to fight Shakur. There's guys that will fight Shakur. So right now, guys, just so you know, Joe Cordina is a plus 800 underdog. He's an 8-1 underdog against Shakur Stevenson. Shakur is a minus 1,300 on, and this is per FanDuel. These are the FanDuel odds. So, you know, the bookies are telling you they don't believe that Joe Cordina got a snowball's chance of hell beating Shakur Stevenson. So, yeah, like at some point in time, you have to step up the matchmaking. You have to step up. Hell, if he would have fought like Gustavo Lemos, I would have been okay with that, because at least he's coming off a loss where people really thought he won, so it would have been all right. But Joe Cordina's coming off a loss where he got his ass waxed by a guy that nobody heard of. And not to put down Anthony Kakachi, but Anthony Kakachi was a guy that if he did any homework on his career, he had been at European level, fringe contender, a guy that's not a big puncher, and he gets worked. He absolutely worked Joe Cordina. So it is what it is. They tried to rob Tomoki badly. He generally won 9 rounds minimum with a knockdown. They fought. Now look, I didn't check because I got the dates mixed up. Did Tomoki and Liorato Diamante fight today? They fought today? And if so, who won? Because I didn't see the results. I haven't really been on the computer like that today. I think Leo versus Kameda can be in the USA because of Kameda's Mexican following. In fact, he probably speaks better Spanish than Angelo. We'll have to see. I mean, I don't know, but again, that's not a fight that I would be led to believe that Angelo would go to Japan for. They'd have to go to Albuquerque, or he'll have to come to the States. Split decision? Okay. So I know Diamante won the first fight by split decision. Tomoki wins this fight by split decision. So that makes what? Tomoki. So Tomoki's now officially the IBF mandatory to Angelo. Cool. I believe Angelo has what? 9 months to a year from now to defend, because now he's a mandatory. So, we'll get to him at some point. What about the fight with Crawford and Lara? If Lara beats Danny, I think he will. By the way, Crawford and Lara sounds ridiculously boring. I don't want to see that fight. I'll be okay if they don't fight. Let me see. Cordina hasn't looked the same since he got busted for PEDs. Yeah, look, I like Joe Cordina. I've been trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But yes, he hasn't had the same snap, the same zip, the same performances ever since all that happened. So that's fair enough. Puma versus Ioka 2 looks likely for New Year's Eve in Japan. I thought Puma was supposed to go fight Bam, because I remember Bam Rodriguez was talking about fighting Puma next. The way Bam and Matchroom and Robert Garcia made it sound, it sounded like they wanted to go straight into a 3-belt unification. But I guess if Ioka and his people are coming with more money, then that would make sense as to why it's not happening. But if Puma's not fighting Bam next, that's very disappointing, because I don't want to see, because if Puma's not fighting Bam, then that probably means Bam's gonna fight Gaio in a rematch, and I don't want to watch Gaio versus Bam. That was one of the most shot performances I've ever seen, and the crazy thing is, even in the shot performance, he still dropped Bam. So that was the even crazier part. But I'm respect to Bam and everything he's accomplished. I really do like him as a fighter. But I'm just tired of seeing Bam fight older fighters. I want to see him fight some guys who are a bit younger, a bit fresher, a bit stronger. So this is the one thing I don't like about Matchroom Boxing is every time they have these fights, there's always rematch clauses. And there's been some real pointless rematches. Like Povetkin, when Povetkin knocked the living daylights out of Dillian White, even though he wound up losing the rematch, he shouldn't have had the rematch from him. He should have been able to move on to bigger and better things, and vice versa. Bam already beat the daylights out of Gaio. It was not a close fight, apart from one moment of the fight. I mean, come on, man. Like, what's going on? Oh, he is 33. That is crazy. He is 33. So thanks for the correction. I don't know why. I keep thinking Fernando Martinez is young, but you know what I mean. When I say young, I mean like he's fresher. He hasn't been through as many wars as Gaio, as Quadras, as Rungvisai. He's not maybe the same in terms of. He is the same in terms of age, but I think he's younger in the sense of the fact that he hasn't been in as many wars. He's not had those trilogies. So that's what I mean. He's fresher. Not younger, but he's fresh. I want to see Bam fight fresher fighters. Guys that haven't been through a million wars. Yeah, well, I was at Crawford Madrimov. It was a fight where it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world. I personally thought the whole card would have been great if that fight wasn't on it. I didn't like the fight that much. It's a little too slow for my taste, but I actually thought, believe it or not, for that fight, I thought the judges got the scorecards right. Like, I don't normally agree with boxing scorecards and big fights because they'd be all over the place, but I thought it was a close fight. Could have won either, competitive fight. I thought Crawford won. But what's crazy about that fight was if you wanted to really apply the whole, like, you got to take the belt for the champion thing that people like to pull out when it's the fair fighters winning bullshit decisions, Crawford lost that fight. If you apply that principle to that fight. Casanova Pugilist says Crawford beat a shot Spence. His resume is weak. First young, hungry, strong fighter he fights. He went the full 12. Fight Boots. I would love for him to fight Boots. That would be lovely if he fought Boots. But that's not gonna happen. Crawford's gonna probably fight what? Who knows? Who knows what he's gonna do? I'm to the point with Terrence Crawford. Like, he's one of my favorite fighters, but I've kind of checked out with Terrence Crawford because ever since he beat Errol Spence, he's kind of been on like this whole, like, he wants the boxing world to kiss his ass because he beat Errol Spence, which was a great performance. I enjoyed it. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But it's like, okay, if you're gonna continue to, proved yourself to be the best pound for pound number one fighter in the world, you gotta show and prove, brother. You gotta fight the Jaron Ennis. You gotta fight the Tim Tszyu. You gotta fight the Virgil Ortiz. But most preferably, Jaron Ennis. You know, because that's a guy out of everyone around your weight, and out of everyone you ever had in your career, that's the guy that has some similarities to things you do in your skill set. So we want to see you have to try to offset what he does, and they don't see it that way. They say he brings nothing to the table, this, down the third. So it is what it is. Meanwhile, Jaron Ennis and Brian Norman Jr. they're going back and forth about offers. Boots said he sent an offer 2 days ago. They never heard anything back. Then Brian Norman's father says, "Oh well, we sent a counter offer, this, that, and the third." So now it's crazy. Now we have the welterweight division. There's no pay-per-view, big name, attraction type fighters at welterweight, but we had the same bullshit we had when we had the Crawford and Spence era. So it's insane. We're having this much trouble getting a Brian Norman, Jaron Ennis unification fight done. Is this where we're at in the welterweight division? I mean, come on. Get it together. BT, do you see business of boxing milking fights in-house, friends basically set up fights just to make money, and there is no... Yes, there is that. Listen, guys, let me explain something to you guys. Let me explain something, and listen real hard and listen real good. You guys already know at the top levels of boxing, this is a business, and every fighter fights to become a champion, right? And so fighters do want to fight the best. The fighters want to fight the best, but the fighters do have a life after boxing, and they have to maximize that time at the top. So, when you win the title, they have these things called voluntary defenses, and that's where the fighter and his team are supposed to do their due diligence and pick a guy in the rankings who's ranked. So he's credible. If he was in the rankings, he was credible enough to get in the rankings. But a guy that's credible, and a guy that but a guy that you can beat and look good beating. Because what does it do? It gets you a win, which gets you momentum, which gets you another payday, which increases the value of your next payday. So to answer your question, yes, there is milking fights. Champions do, go other routes to build fights and make them bigger, but there's a way to do things the right way. And I think, okay, when you're a champion, when you win the title, you get your voluntary defense, you defend it against somebody you could beat, you look spectacular doing it. Okay, after you do your voluntary, you try to get the unification fight next. If you can't get a unification, then you try to honor your mandatory as soon as possible, knock that out the way so you don't got to worry about a mandatory for a while, and then try to make the big fights happen. But it's hard, man. It's hard to always make the biggest fights because it's not just the fighters. There's always moving pieces. There's always moving parts. You have the managers, the promoters. Everyone has their own agendas. The networks, even, which really that's the real Dundada, the head honcho, and all this. It's not the promoters. Okay, it's not the managers. But it's the networks, because you got to understand, most boxing promoters, apart from ProBox, they are subject to the networks. The networks supply the promoters with the platform and the money. So the promoters have to make fights that are wanted by the networks, and that doesn't always mean it's what should happen next. A lot of times, guys who are mandatory challengers get fucked over because they may not have the most attractive style, or they don't come from the right country. So there's ways to bypass certain mandatories and make a fight that's attracted to the network. So yeah, I know that was a bit of a tangent, but I'm giving you the large picture. Trey McMahon says, "What up, boy? I don't always agree, but we here out of respect and love for boxing. Thank you, appreciate the content." Trey McMahon, tip of the cap goes to you. It's okay. I don't need everybody to agree with me. I would actually prefer people don't agree with me, because that's what keeps everything a lot more exciting here on YouTube and True School Sports. But yeah, I appreciate all you guys, man, and I appreciate being live. These lives for me, you guys don't understand. And I have to go live more often because these lives are like therapy sessions for me. When I go out in the world and when I get around people, when I get around large crowds, I may have to filter myself sometimes. I'm not fully comfortable expressing myself. But, you know, when I come on these lives and I'm here on YouTube, I really just feel like this is where I belong. So it's good to be here. Good to be seen. Any one of those guys, Boots, Virgil, Zoo, let's see if it's a pound guy, fight these young, hungry fighters. And Bud stopped mostly washed fighters at 147. Yeah, and I would like to see Bud, you know, if he can't get Boots, if he can't get Zoo, if he can't get Virgil, okay, then Boachuk. I thought Boachuk beat Virgil. So to me, Boachuk would be a good fight. Boachuk would be an acceptable opponent. You got a solid 3 to 4 acceptable opponents. Pick one, you know? But yeah, I find it crazy how we're really having problems in the welterweight division making Brian Norman Jr. versus Jaron Ennis. So like that should be a fight where there shouldn't even be there should be minimal negotiations. Boots needs to get his ass in the ring. If Boots wants to fight Terrence Crawford, if Jaron Ennis really wants to get a Crawford fight or command any sort of big fight, he needs to be boxing as much as humanly possible. He don't got time to be dilly-dallying with negotiations. And I don't give a damn if it's his fault or Brian Norman's fault. He doesn't have time to be playing these tacky games. So if you can't get the Brian Norman fight, for whatever the case may be, go down the rankings and until you find someone that will fight you. Because I know there are guys that do avoid Jaron Ennis, but I know not everybody is avoiding Jaron Ennis. And so hopefully, God willing, they can go ahead and get that fight made like ASAP, because you know, this is the division where there's no real stars like that. So there's no time to waste. I personally think this negotiations for Boots and Norman is gonna fall apart. I think Norman will wind up fighting Teofimo Lopez. He's gonna fight Teofimo Lopez. That'll be a top rank fight. Mark my words. It'll be Teofimo Lopez versus Brian Norman. Boots will probably fight. I don't know. Let me see. Let me look at these rankings. I'll tell you guys who Boots will fight. I can look at the IBF rankings and just tell you guys without even knowing anything. Now, funny enough, and I want to highlight this about Boots. Boots has Karen Chukajan as his IBF mandatory right now. That's actually his mandatory. Karen Chukajan has been on the warpath, and he's been winning fight after fight after fight since Jaron Ennis and him fought. You know, he lost the fight to Boots, but he made Boots look very bad in the process. And regardless what any fans want to say, Karen Chukajan exposed Jaron Ennis, like some things that he needs to work on, you know, that night in the ring. You know, show good footwork, counter punch pretty well, and he's been winning fights, and he's a mandatory. And now look, they don't want to go that route. They don't want to fight Karen Chukajan. But like, see, this is what I tell you guys. Boxing, a lot of people in boxing, they don't keep that same energy. He should fight him again. He should fight him again, and you know, try to put that to bed easier. And you mentioned that Karen's been fighting guys outside of top 15. Okay, well, whoever he's been beating, whoever they've been putting in front of him, he's been beating. Let me see. He beat Michael Marcano 29-7, Pierre Rossetti 18-1, and then he beat Harry Scarf 13-2. You're wrong. The Harry Scarf was not outside the rankings. Harry Scarf, who he beat in his last fight, was an IBF final eliminator. Harry Scarf, before he fought Karen Chukajan, Harry Scarf beat Ikao Essuman, the former British champion. He upset him. That's how Harry Scarf got in the rankings in the first place. So you're wrong. He hasn't just beaten guys outside of top 15. I actually would like to, honestly, I know I'm going to be in the minority in this. I want to see Jaron Ennis fight. If he can't fight Brian Norman Jr. or Mario Barrios or any of the champions, or like a Jin Sasaki or something like that, I would love to see Jaron Ennis fight Karen Chukajan again, because I feel like he didn't lose the fight, but he really looked, in my opinion, I thought he looked pretty bad. I thought he looked terrible, and I think he needs to show that he can deal with that style in more dominant fashion than he did the first time. And it's not like he's fighting nobody big. So if you can't get another big fight your mandatory, you know. But I know how boxing is. I already know how boxing is. I know boxing doesn't honor the mandatory system. So it is what it is, you know. Let me see. Shout out to my boy Enrique Luna. By the way, Enrique, I appreciate all the kind messages on Instagram. He says, BT, we seen you reshuffled your pound for pound list, added and dropped. Yes. So, Terrence Crawford, I dropped him one spot from number 1 to number 2. Usyk is now number 1. So 1, 2, 3 is Usyk 1, Crawford 2, Inoue 3. Bivol, Beterbiev is 4, Bivol's 5, Canelo 6, Kenshiro, I believe, is 7, Bam Rodriguez is 8, Junto Nakatani is 9, and then Gervonta Davis is 10. That's the pound for pound list right now. I know there's some people are saying like how are you gonna have Shakur off the list? Well, Shakur's listen, you fighting guys that coming off losses that you're like a 10-1 favorite against. You gotta, I will punish guys for matchmaking. And I know that's not always up to their control. These fighters just fight who they put in front of them, but Shakur could fight better fighters than Joe Cordina. I'm sorry, I'm not really a big fan of the Joe Cordina fight. Joe Cordina got his ass waxed by Anthony Kakachi, a guy who couldn't even punch at 130. And I remember Joe Cordina as a 35-pounder. Joe Cordina was not a good 135-pounder. That's why he moved to 130. I remember watching him as a prospect, and he had some talent. But the best thing they ever did for Joe Cordina was move him down to 130. Had he stayed I'll tell you right now, if he would have stayed at 135, he would have just been another British hype job. It would have been bad for him. He wouldn't have had a snowball's chance to ever touch a title if he would have stayed and campaigned as a 35-pounder. So his management team deserves credit because 135 would have been treacherous for Joe Cordina. But now he's coming up to 35. He's come up to 35 with as a multiple time champion with more confidence, more experience, a more filled out frame. So he's got a better chance now than he would have had then. I had like 10 bands on Boot stopping Karen. He said, I'm still working on getting that money back. Exactly. That's why you gotta put it right, David. Because he lost you 10 bands. Wally G says, keep up the great work, true. Big respect. Big respect to you guys, man. It's good to be here. It's good to be seen. It's good to be live. 2 times live this week, and gonna up it a little more next week. So yeah, thank you guys. Get your questions in. We're 47 minutes in. It's your boy BT in the afternoon. Listen, we're not watching Floyd. Floyd Mayweather exhibitions aren't cool anymore. Floyd Mayweather exhibitions stopped being cool after he fought, who was it? Tension. All right? We're not watching that bullshit today. Couple fights. Listen, I'll probably check out some of the highlights of the undercard, though, because, Carmel Moen's in action. They gave him a straight can. I mean, honestly, they gave him. He's fighting a fighter from Mexico who hasn't boxed since 2018. He's been 6 years inactive, has no knockouts. He's never been stopped, but he also has no knockouts himself. And he's got, I think 7 or 8 fights. So that's who Carmel Moen's fighting. He ain't really fighting much. But the real fight on that card that I'm really interested about is a fight between 2 contenders at 122. And you got David Picasso and you got Azar Hovhannisyan. So, I think that'll probably be the fight if you're like a real boxing fan and you want to know what's the fight you should pay attention to on the undercard of that particular card. That's the fight you pay attention to because it will have implications on the landscape of the 122 division. Which, by the way, 122 is it's in a transitional phase. Inoue has all the belts. He's still there. I think he should move to featherweight after this TJ Doheny fight, but I think he stays there longer. But yeah, 122 is still kind of correcting itself out and looking for the next guy when Inoue inevitably leaves. So, yeah. A little off subject, but I'm still pretty high on Pacheco. As crazy as it sounds, I think Sean McCowan will beat Mbili and maybe Munguia. I like Diego. I thought Diego, his stock did drop a little bit after the Sean McCallum fight. Like, he didn't lose the fight, and he didn't look terrible. He just didn't look spectacular either. It was just a solid performance. So, for me, I still am high on Diego Pacheco. I just think for him it's gonna be I think his promoter, all right, which is Eddie Hearn, and more so his manager Keith Conley, they're playing a waiting game. See, a lot of boxing management is playing a waiting game. He's still very young, so you don't got to rush the kid into a fight he's not ready for. You can take your time, put him in these fights against good veterans, and develop him and sharpen the blade. But I think Conley, Keith Conley is playing the waiting game of when is Canelo gonna relinquish those belts, because at some point Canelo's gonna have to relinquish those belts. I believe Pacheco right now is the number one contender. I'm gonna say he's number one. Let me see. Diego Pacheco right now, as it stands, he is your current number one contender for the WBO title. So I don't think he's been mandated. I don't think he's officially mandatory, but he is the number one contender. So what I would like to know about that is if he does get mandated, if he is a mandatory challenger at some point for the WBO, will Canelo give Diego Pacheco the shot? I actually think, believe it or not, quiet as kept, I think Canelo Alvarez would give Diego Pacheco a shot, because Diego Pacheco is, Mexican-American, and they know each other. He knows him. There's familiarity there. Canelo sparred Diego Pacheco for what fight? I think I'm going to say it was Callum Smith. Pacheco was in a couple of those training camps, so I could see it. I could see Canelo Alvarez going from Munguia to Berlanga to Pacheco, or Munguia, Berlanga, and Billy Pacheco. Yeah, it's not crazy. I never put too much thought into him giving Pacheco a shot, but Pacheco is he's a young fighter, undefeated record, solid. Canelo will be a heavy favorite. I could see Canelo either vacating or getting him the shot, but I actually think he would give him the shot. As crazy as it sounds. Dandada says, BT, Hrgovic exposed. Yes, he did get exposed. Unfortunately, he got exposed for having lack of stamina. And honestly, I thought it was very unfair. I thought Hrgovic got screwed by Daniel Dubois being able to lead with his head. I don't think Dubois will be able to lead with his head against Anthony Joshua. I think for this fight, they're going to get a better referee, so Dubois can't do that against Joshua, because they're going to want Joshua to win. But my boy Hrgovic does have some things to work on, but I haven't wavered. I still think Filip Hrgovic will be heavyweight champion, and I still think on his best night, which I still haven't seen yet, under the lights, I still think on his best night, he's going to win a heavyweight title against, and I think on his best night, he could beat anybody in the division. That hasn't wavered, because he was actually the fight was pretty competitive. He had Dubois buzzed a couple of times, had him hurt. It wasn't like he got like with Jared Anderson. Jared Anderson got his ass waxed by Martin Bakole. So it wasn't like that kind of a fight. He was in the fight. He buzzed Dubois a couple of times. I just think, from knowing him personally and from talking to him, I just think psychologically there's some things he has to work on to get over that hump. And I think he will figure it out at some point. He's still 31 or 32? Let me fact check myself, because I thought Puma Martinez was younger than he actually was. Hrgovic is what? Filip Hrgovic is 32 years old. So he's still at a very good age for heavyweights, and I think he'll come good at some point. Shout out to my guy Major Key Boxing. He says, congratulations on the Angelo Leo victory. Thank you, Major Key. Good to see you, champ. Hope all is well. Still basking in the glory of that. Looking forward to the next fight. I would fully expect. I don't think Angelo fights the rest of this year, but I think he fights very early next year. So yeah. Andrew says Hrgovic is not going to win a title. I disagree. I think he is going to win a title. I think Tyson Fury and Usyk are going to be out of the picture very soon. They won't be boxing much longer. Hrgovic is 32, so by the time, but I'll put it like this: Hrgovic will win a world title by the time he's 34. I'll say by 34 he wins a heavyweight title, because the landscape of heavyweight boxing is gonna look a lot different in 2 years, and whoever he had to fight for the title, I think he beats them. In fact, I think he might even have to fight. I think it'll get to a point where I think Daniel Dubois could win a vacant title, and that might be a rematch for the future. Mark my words. But either way, if it's Dubois or somebody else, I just think Hrgovic can still be better than he's been, and I think he will be better than he's been. Heavyweights don't develop like most fighters. Heavyweights genuinely tend to mature a little bit slower. Dubois has the IBF right now, but he doesn't have the actual. Did he get upgraded? Let me see. I don't remember him. Oh, he does. Okay, he has the IBF now, so you're right. So Hrgovic would have had it if he would have won. It's fucking bullshit. That fight really pisses me off. You know, I've had a lot of Croatians come on the channel. I've said a lot of I've had a lot of Croatians on the comments come to me and say that Hrgovic had all these problems in camp because his daughter was being born, which he may or may have not have. I don't know. I haven't talked to him, but since I haven't talked to him since the loss. But I don't make excuses. If the guy loses, he loses. Yeah, like I think Hrgovic will beat Jalov. Are you interested to see how Caleb Plant is going to look? Yes, I am. Caleb Plant versus Trevor McCumbee is actually the fight on the Canelo undercard. Actually, on the entire card, including the main event. It's the fight I'm most excited about because Caleb Plant needs to get back in the win column. Trevor McCumbee, I know Trevor McCumbee because he fought on one of the Pro Box cards that Angelo had. I can't remember if it was Angelo versus Plania or Angelo Polanco or Angelo versus Baez, but I remember seeing McCumbee fight, and he can fight. He's 28-0. He can fight. Got busted for steroids back in the day. That's been a big point of discussion in the build up to the fight. But you guys want to know the real reason why I'm excited about Caleb Plant versus the real reason I'm excited about Caleb Plant versus McCumbee is because I love when Caleb Plant fights white people. When Caleb Plant fights against other white guys, he really turns it up. Like Mike Lee, Vincent Feigeboots, he goes to another dimension when he fights these other white guys because he want to prove that he's not like them. So that's the main reason I'm excited for this fight. You know, if PBC were smart, the way they would market that fight, they would say, you know what? There's two different types of white guys in America. There's like country boys, and then there's like the wavy country boys. You know, and Caleb Plant wants to prove that he's not like Trevor McCumbee. You know, so yeah, I get a kick out of that. You know, because Caleb Plant, he's really black, man. He's blacker than most black fighters in boxing. Let's have it right. He's been invited to the cookout for a long time. He drives lowriders. He got a beautiful black wife. You know, so he invited to the cookout. Shout out to my boy Johnny. He says, bro, that shake messed me up, champ. Boy, listen, nobody told you to get the Kit Kat shake. Could have got cookies and cream. Dubois can crack. AJ better be on his toes and jab. Dubois' best strategy is to talk a ton of trash and get AJ to come at him. And Dubois, quiet as kept. He's been getting a lot better at his trash talk. You know, I think he's maturing really nicely as a heavyweight. My thing is this: people don't want to acknowledge it, but Dubois was able to really get away with a lot of physical, dirty tactics against Hrgovic. I think he was coming in with his head a lot. Obviously, he beat the shit out of him and eventually stopped him, but he was coming in with his head a lot. And I just think that if I'm really curious to see what kind of refereeing is going to be allowed in that fight, because I think even pockets of the Usyk fight, he was able to roughhouse Usyk here and there, and it led to him being close enough to land a shot that was considered a low blow. I thought it was clean. I thought, you know, they let Usyk get away with one there, but it is what it is. We'll see how it goes. But shout out to everybody here. It's your boy BT, Brendan Taylor, the Untouchable, True School Sports Empire, giving you guys that afternoon, that just off the cuff, random boxing talk. Let me see. What else did we not talk about? We talked about Norman. We talked about Shakur. We talked about... Oh! We didn't talk about Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis, you know, shout out to him, you know, the businessman. He's apparently got a fight lined up for November the 8th. And it'll be a homecoming fight. He's going to be coming back to the land of Pernell Whitaker, his hometown, Norfolk, Virginia. He's going to be fighting Gustavo Lemos. That's the reports. And if it gets finalized, that's the fight that's gonna be next. And man, what a good fight! What an amazing fight, Gustavo Lemos. I try to tell Richard Hitchens. You know, I try to tell Hitchens when you know, I said it here on video, and I guess he watched his video about the fight before when it first got signed, and then, you know, he tried to press me. and try to tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about. Like, I don't know boxing. And then guess what? After the fight, when he got, you know, them hands put on him and he was in the fight of his life, he had to acknowledge that, hey, I knew what I was talking about. So, Keyshawn Davis, Gustavo Lemos, really good fight. I think we got to see Keyshawn Davis take a statement of this fight because This is a real genuine fight he could lose. This is a fight where if he's not careful, we've seen it. We've seen when he fought Nahir Albright. Nahir Albright's taller, he's rangier than Gustavo Lemos, but we've seen Keyshawn Davis in that fight against Nahir Albright get counterpunched, you know? And so if Lemos is able to, you know, land a big, hard, flush counter shot on a guy like Keyshawn Davis, or even just land any sort of big shot on Keyshawn Davis, I think it could be a tough night at the office for him, and maybe even a loss. You know, I don't write him off. Gustavo Lemos can upset the apple cart. So I like that fight a lot, and I like the fight for what it could do for Keyshawn Davis, because Lemos right now, he's respected. He's looked at in a good regard by boxing fans because of how he performed against Hitchens. So good fight. Andrew says, "I hope you're well, BT." I'm hanging in there, man. You know, it's been a tough transition coming here to Vegas, but I'm doing my thing. You know, I'm a fighter. You know, nothing will keep me down. So yeah, I'm good. Let me see. Somebody had asked me, what did I think about did Vergil Ortiz win in my eyes? No, I thought he lost, and I thought he lost quite clearly. I went back and I scored the fight. I watched it a couple like a week after Angelo's fight, and when I went back and I watched it, I scored it round by round. And I like Vergil. I'm a huge Vergil fan. You know, I think highly of him. I think he's still the kind of fighter that, you know, can move up to middleweight and make the middleweight division one day great again. But I thought Vergil Ortiz lost handily to Boachuk. I scored at 116, 110. I thought the knockdowns helped a lot in the fight, but I also thought Vergil's defense was leaky in this fight. And the reason I thought it was leaky was because they had this whole strategy to leave the lead hand low and make Vergil a slick power boxer, which it worked in spots, but I just think it wasn't going to work long term against Boachuk, because Boachuk's stamina is too good. His conditioning and his stamina is too high, and the kind of punches he throws are straight, like textbook down the middle punches. So if you look at the shots that dropped Vergil, one was a straight chopping right hand, right? One was a straight chopping right hand that was a flash knockdown. The other one was a left hook, which was also a flash knockdown. So they weren't like Boachuk wasn't landing like devastating knockdowns, but they were knockdowns. It doesn't matter if they were devastating or not. He got put on his ass. They were knockdowns. So those are 2 10-8 rounds. So for you to think that Vergil beat Boachuk, what you're telling me is you thought Vergil won what? You thought Vergil won 7 to 8 rounds? Apart from the knockdowns, you thought Vergil won 7 to 8 rounds? I can't see it. I just can't. There were too many rounds where like in the 12th round alone, in the 12th round alone, Boachuk landed like 6 or 7 clean straight right hands. I mean, very, very poor defense in my opinion. And I know Boachuk's a high level fighter, but I have a high expectation of Vergil Ortiz, and so when I saw him perform the way he did against Boachuk, I was disappointed. I was very disappointed. You know, showed a lot of heart. Showed a lot of heart. Showed a lot of gumption. I thought like the round he got knocked down, he got up and he fought even harder. Like there were some things that were redeeming and respectable from Vergil Ortiz in the fight. But if you're scoring that fight round by round, he did not win that fight, and it's ridiculous, because if you're Sergey Boachuk, you gotta be thinking to yourself, I just came to Vegas, or I just came to Vegas on a Golden Boy show, and I put this man on his ass twice. And I still can't get a decision. So you're gonna feel like you can't win no matter what you do. You gotta knock this guy out to get a draw. Yeah, I thought early on, Vergil was intentionally fighting off his back foot, and the first like 2 rounds, first 2 rounds or so, Boachuk was doing a lot of headhunting. He was throwing a lot of shots at Vergil's head, and he was missing because Vergil was employing a game plan where he was being a power boxer. Lead left hand low, and when I say power boxer, what I mean is, you know, he's boxing, but every shot he's throwing is a precision power shot, a power jab, right? So it wasn't until like round 3 or 4 where Boachuk made the adjustment to throw punches to the body, and then, you know, things got better from as the fight went on. But I thought as the fight went on, yeah, Vergil got put on his back foot. I thought Boachuk was the sharper fighter. And I think, yeah, there was a lot of Virgil Ortiz throws punches with a lot of torque. He throws punches with a lot of torque, and even and a lot of these shots too that Virgil would land, what people thought he would land, they were getting blocked because I think it was round, was it 5 or 6? Around I'm gonna say round 6. Virgil Boachuk made an adjustment. So what happened was in round 6. So the whole fight, the first couple rounds, Virgil Boachuk's throwing these punches to the head. Virgil's being slick, power boxing, and he's landing these counter shots, these counter right hands over the top. That's the shot that Virgil wanted to land, was a counter right hand over the top. But then Boachuk stopped throwing as many shots to the head, and then around round 6, Boachuk made an adjustment, and people didn't know what they were watching. Boachuk, instead, when he would throw his jab, instead of getting it here to regular position, he would throw it here and get it back to the head, right? So what that did was, when he would throw the jab and then get it back over here, it would take away the counter right hand of Virgil Ortiz, the counter overhand or the counter straight. So then Virgil had to actually, be a little bit more creative with his offense. But while he was trying to figure that out and adjust to the adjustment, Boachuk, he's landing straight right hands. He's going to the body. He's doing all kinds of great things in the ring. And I just think a lot of his work was getting ignored by the commentary and whatnot. And I thought he won. I really don't think it was a hard fight to score. I thought Boachuk won quite handily. Those weren't hurt knockdowns, and he came back and took over the rounds. If anything, those no, you can't. It doesn't matter if they're devastating knockdowns or flash knockdowns. They're knockdowns. They're 10-8 rounds. They are 10-8 rounds. He lost those 10-8. Them 2 rounds, he's down 10-8. So he's down by a deficit. The second knockdown, which was in round 8, left hook, Virgil got up and he fought really, really hard, and he had some success. He buzzed. I'll acknowledge he buzzed Boachuk. If you really wanted to be generous, you could score that a 9-8 round. I don't score 9-8 rounds, though. 10-8. He put him on his ass. 10-8. And I like Virgil. I wish I could sit here and tell you Virgil, came back and beat him and all this stuff. Nah, fuck that. He lost. He lost that fight. And I hate that they're gonna have to do a rematch, because I think Virgil he'll probably win a rematch. Because I think he did figure him out towards the end, but he lost the first fight. He lost, so. How do you think Virgil and Madrimov would have played out? Obviously, Madrimov stands even a better shot after the knee grinder Virgil went through. I like that fight for Virgil, honestly. I think that's a better fight for him than Boachuk. I don't think Madrimov's conditioning is on the par with Boachuk. I think Boachuk is a very, very intelligent fighter with a lot of tools, as is Madrimov, but I just think his level of intelligence, along with his conditioning and output, tough match for anybody at 54. Boachuk versus anybody at 54 is a hard night at the office. I mean, for Christ's sake, what's crazy about the Boachuk-Virgil fight is, when I was watching, I'm like, damn, Brandon Adams really knocked this guy out and Virgil couldn't. So what does that say about Brandon Adams? Where's he at? Give Brandon Adams a shot. DT, Robert Garcia has mentioned if he has a fake nullifier as far as business where he chooses and picks, that Robert is okay with it so he can make money and it's safe. I don't want to comment anything negative about Robert, Shout out to Robert Garcia. Listen, there are certain opportunities in life and in boxing you just can't turn down. And I think there are certain fighters that Robert's trained that if they had the chance to train him, they would too, like Anthony Joshua. Styles make fights. Virgil got saved like Canelo. I think so. I thought Virgil got bailed out. He's very fortunate to not have a loss on his record. I don't think he just lost. I think he lost pretty clearly, like 116, 110. But that's just me. Virgil does not beat Crawford on his worst day. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think if Crawford had his worst day against Virgil, Crawford would get hurt. But that would also mean Virgil would have to show up better than he did against Boachuk. So, two dominoes have to fall. Robert Garcia, trainer of the year. I don't think so. I don't think so. He's in the running. I'm not even sure who I have as trainer of the year right now because, look, Bam, he beat Guile. That was a good win. Who else did he have? He has Bam. He has... Ryle was a great one. To me, Ryle Valenzuela the coaching job he did in that fight was like his best work. But like Bam was supposed to be Guile the way he did. Raya was a great coaching job, and Virgil got a gift. So I don't. I have to think though. He's definitely going to be the front runner. Robert Garcia. You know, call me biased. I throw in Miguel Leo. Who else is there in boxing? You know, Shingo Inoue. I would like Shingo Inoue to finally get some consideration. He never gets consideration, even though he's Inoue's dad. Who else is there? Who else is there in boxing this year that you could say? Anatoly Lomachenko. Anatoly Lomachenko. He trained Usyk to beat up on Tyson Fury. He deserves consideration. Who else? Who else in boxing? Throw out some names. Imagine Virgil fighting the Ukrainian against Bochuk with all 3 Ukrainian judges. Talk about a fair fight. Crawford's a legend, but he's on his way out. He'll be 37 years old this September. And that's why I feel like they're going to be very careful with how they move at 54. 154 is a very hot division. You know, there's Zoo, there's Fundura, there's Bochuk, there's Virgil. I don't know who the hell he fights next. Maybe, I don't even know. Bochuk could just take the punishment. I mean, you talk about punishment. He took all his punishment and never got put on the like Virgil was the one. Like you guys, this is what I'm saying about that fight. Virgil did land some big shots, and he did have him buzzed in the 8th round, and he did do some great things towards the back half of that fight. But you guys are talking about all this punishment that Bochuk took, but yet Virgil was the one on his ass twice. So what are we talking about here? Yeah, Brandon Adams. I know he was. I know he fought recently because I know my boy Sean Zattel interviewed him recently. So yeah, like honestly, Brandon Adams deserves some love because you know Virgil's supposed to be the one of the premier boxer punchers in the whole sport of boxing. He fights Bochuk, gets dropped twice, throwing all these hard shots. Yeah. Didn't do nothing to Bochuk as far as putting on the canvas. But Brandon Adams knocks Bochuk out. Like, all together? Come on. That dude deserves to get more opportunities. He could fight. Pamaroon says, hey, BT, I thought you got married. I miss you and love you and Pops. Good to see you, champ. No marriage for me yet, man. I ain't met no woman yet that's worthy of that. But no, I'm good. I'm good. What about Virgil's body work early in the fight? Yeah, it was good. He had some good body work early in the fight. I thought... The way I saw it was, well, actually no, he had some good body work like towards like the middle-ish rounds, but no, I thought Bochuk and Virgil were both doing a lot of headhunting early on. That's why look, if you go back and you watch, Virgil is fighting with the lead left hand down, trying to be slick, trying to bait Bochuk to throw the straight right hand in and counter over the top. When that stopped working, I thought he had a bunch of problems in the fight. He wasn't hurt, bro. Stop. I'm not saying no. You're the Trey. You're the only one. You're the only one that's arguing about whether he was hurt or not. I don't give a damn if he was hurt or not. He got put on his ass twice. There was 2 knockdowns in the fight. That's an irrefutable, irreversible fact. 2 10-8 rounds. So it don't matter if it was flash. It don't matter if it was a devastating knockdown. He got put on his ass twice. And I'll tell you this, someone was the back half of the fight. He was getting hit with so many straight right hands. I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't believe how poor his deep. Like I was waiting for Virgil at some point in the fight to stop holding the lead left hand low and go into a high guard. Just go into the high guard so you can pick off some of these right hands that are coming your way. But no, he continued to box with the lead left hand low, and luckily for him, you know. They supposedly have a deal for the Crawford fight in place, and he got a decision he shouldn't have gotten. It happens in boxing. Every fighter in the history of boxing, great fighters, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd, anyone, Chavez, anyone you can name, they have all gotten a dubious decision at some point in their career. It normally happens to everyone. This was his, so. David Esther says, as much as I can't stand Ryan Garcia, I might give him a shot at beating Virgil. I'll tell you. I'll tell you guys something about Ryan Garcia. You may not agree with, and people may say I don't know shit about boxing, but as far as talent, if we're just talking about natural, pure talent, and I know that's not all it takes to be great in boxing, but Ryan Garcia is a more talented fighter than Virgil Ortiz. Definitely, it's not even a question. Virgil is obviously more disciplined and lives the life and whatnot, and he's obviously very talented himself. But if they, I'm with you, David. Like if the best Ryan, like I know it's a big if, but if he gets himself right and the best Ryan shows up, that Ryan Garcia, he's got some shit you can't teach. He's got what they call the X factor. That's why he's regarded so highly, and I'll stand by it. In terms of natural talent, reflexes, ability, things like that, he's one of the best fighters I've ever seen in the gym. And I've seen, you name the fighters. You can name any of the fighters in the weight class, the T.O.s, the Devins, the Shakurs, the Haneys. I've seen them all in the gym at some point. So I'm sticking by that. But he's got bigger problems than boxing. He needs to get his life right. He needs to, get off drugs, these kind of things, and I hope he does. I would love to see, like, honestly, one of the things I would love to see in boxing the most is a Ryan Garcia, a fully focused, dedicated, disciplined Ryan Garcia, because I'm telling you, he's got ridiculously great just gifts. But shout out to everyone who's still here watching me. I'm just going through the comments. And whoop is at both rounds he got knocked down. No, he did not. BT, just because it's a knockdown, it's not an automatic 10-8 round because it's 3 minutes. I know that. Round 1 was a 10-8. Round 8 is where you can debate. I'm okay if you want to debate round 8 and say round 8, you could have given it a 9-8 round because Virgil fought so well after the knockdown. Then okay, I won't even argue with you. But round 1 was a clear 10-8. Ryan got dropped by Luke Campbell. Virgil would stop Ryan in under 5 rounds. Listen, man. I saw Michael McKinson, I saw Michael McKinson, who I love. You guys know. If you guys watch me, you guys know I'm probably the only American content creator who likes Michael McKinson. But Michael McKinson was the most pillow-fisted guy in the rankings that took Virgil 9 rounds. He ain't going to get Ryan Garcia out in no 5 rounds. No way. Maybe 7, maybe 8, but not no 5. You crazy. McKinson is a slick boxer. Stop. He's slick. He's a little slick. I don't know if I'd say he's slick. He's a southpaw. He's more awkward and physically strong than he is slick. That's what people don't talk about with McKinson. McKinson's actually it's his physical strength on the inside that actually makes him difficult to deal with. That's why if you look at a lot of his fights, he gets knockdowns. He don't get knockouts. Just got here, BT, and shout out to Lord Zed. He says, "Are you watching Floyd tonight? Sorry if you talked about it." No, I'm not. I'm not watching that. I have self-respect. I'll check the highlights though. I'll probably check the highlights. But I'm not watching that. I figured I'd rather use this. I'd rather use this time right here to do my live and talk to the fine folks at True School Sports. Ryan is stationary and his chin is all in the air. That's a terrible comparison. No, but it's not a terrible comparison. I mean, they're not the same style-wise, but what I'm saying is Ryan Garcia has way more firepower to keep Virgil off of him than a Michael McKinson. That's what I'm saying. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you on the 5 rounds. A professional at Virgil's level should not be on the ground unless the opponent is better. I mean, no, I don't agree with that either. I think in the boxing ring, you got these trained professionals, high-level fighters. They know what they're doing in there. Anyone can put on their ass with them little 8-ounce gloves on. But to have it done to you not once but twice, that's inexcusable. Not twice in the same fight. That's where I got a problem. Discuss Pacquiao versus Barrios. What is it to discuss? It's a bullshit fight. Mario Barrios and Manny Pacquiao should not even have him. Virgil kills Ryan. He might kill Ryan. He might kill Ryan. I just don't think it'll be in 5 rounds. Cause who was it? I forgot who said it, but somebody said it'd be 5. It wouldn't be 5 rounds though. It would go longer than 5 rounds. And I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this, right? Sergey Bohachuk was landing straight right hand after straight right hand after straight right hand. Virgil showed a lack of defense to the straight right hand. Ryan Garcia in that last camp with Derek James, and even in some of the fights before, he's been developing a bit of a straight right hand. So all I'm saying is, if that continues to be a problem, if they were to ever fight, you never know what could happen. Because I'll tell you this, that straight right hand comes, and you put that left hook behind it, that Ryan Garcia left hook behind it, who knows what could happen. All right, we're at 75 minutes right now, so I'm gonna give it like 5 to 10 more minutes, and I'm gonna get out of here. But get your questions in. Boho is still pissing blood. So Bohachuk, yeah, he may have been, but he still won he should have won the fight. You know, they robbed his ass. That's actually probably, if I had to pick a fight. There's 2 fights in boxing that I would say if I had to pick for robbery of the year, it would either be that fight, or it would be like a lower level fight. There was this fight I went to in Nicaragua. One of my friends fought this journeyman, and then he was beating the brakes off the journeyman, and then the journeyman started complaining and moaning to the ref, and then they disqualified him for bullshit. So either whatchamacallit, Virgil Ortiz versus Bohachuk, or Eric Lances Jr. versus Osejo. One of them two would be the robbery of the year. But one thing about guys like Virgil is people will give them a lot of rounds they don't win because they just throw a lot of punches with torque on their shots, and they look like they're doing more than they are sometimes. So fair play to them. Brandon D. Hooker says, happy to catch this playback on the morning run. Glad to see you live, BT. What's all this Boots and Norman drama I'm seeing on my feed? And by the way, Brandon, good to see you, champ. It's been a while. I know I haven't been live like that recently, but as far as that whole thing, basically, just to sum it up, Jaron Ennis says that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing sent Brian Norman Jr. an offer. And Brian Norman Jr. and his team and his representatives did not respond to the offer, right? Brian Norman Jr. dad then goes ahead and says that, no, they did respond to the offer. They just countered the offer, which, by the way, that's more than fair in negotiation. If somebody gives you an offer that you don't like, you're more within your rights as the fighter, as the trainer, as the team. You're well within your rights. If you don't like the numbers, if you feel you should get more, and if you feel you can negotiate to get more, listen, this is a hard damn sport. You train in 8 weeks. You're doing training conditioning. You're doing all this stuff. You can negotiate. So they're trying to negotiate. He tried to negotiate, but then they're saying that they didn't get nothing back, and it's a lot of he said, she said. It just feels real like, on a way lesser scale, Spence Crawford. And it's crazy to me that we're still having these problems at 147, getting unification fights done. So I think Boots will fight somebody we don't want to see him fight next in the IBF rankings. And then I think Brian Norman Jr. probably fights Teofimo Lopez. So that's what I'm thinking. That's how I think it's going to go. That's how I think it all plays out. Yeah, I heard about that. I heard the kickboxer was doing his thing. I didn't even watch the Manny Pacquiao kickboxer thing. I didn't have any real interest in it. But I heard Manny Pacquiao looked like trash. And to be honest, Manny Pacquiao looked bad when he fought Ugas. So my thing is, like, I don't understand why God just keeps blessing Mario Barrios. Mario Barrios fought on like six straight pay-per-view cards. This man got Amara Figueroa pregnant. Now they want to give a Manny Pacquiao a fight. What did this guy do in another life to keep getting blessed like this? To keep, it's crazy to me. The only dude, I don't mind the Karen fight. The only dude that made Boots look regular as fuck. Let's see if that was a fluke. That's what I'm saying. That's really the fight I want to see. And I'm to the point where I'm probably gonna sit down here really soon and do a video, and I'm gonna just talk about that, like talk about why Boots needs to fight Karen next. One, because he's your mandatory. He's your mandatory, and you listen. You can't have it both ways. You can't say everyone is ducking you, and then the one guy that made you look like a regular ass fighter, that's your mandatory again. You don't want to fight him because all of a sudden, no, you don't get to pick. You can't be Boogeyman and then choose to who. No, you got to fight him. So, what do you think about the fight between Danny Garcia and Lara? Have a nice weekend. God bless. I think I think the fact that the fight is for a middleweight title at 157 is a disgrace to boxing. But apart from that, I think if it was a non-title fight, I think it'd be a good fight. I think stylistically, Lara is a guy that, as he's gotten older and his legs aren't what they used to be, he sits in the pocket a lot more, and he's more exciting to watch. So I think if he fights anything like that in this fight, it's going to give Danny Garcia some really intriguing counter-punching opportunities. But the thing is, will the counter-punches do anything to Lara? Because Danny Garcia really wasn't a big puncher at 54. He never established himself at 154, let alone 160. So, yeah. Trey McMahon said, if Virgil lost, then so did Crawford. Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say Crawford lost that fight. I thought the scores in that fight were more accurate than the scores in the Virgil Boachuk fight. But yes, if you're using the whole principle of you needed to take the belt from the champion that people like to use, then yeah, Crawford lost the fight. They were both close fight. Well, the Crawford fight was close. The Virgil Boachuk fight to me was not a close fight. Charles Conwell versus Jesus Ramos would be a very good fight. Conwell is a fighter that's really, I think, he's doing things the right way, winning fights against guys in the rankings and whatnot. And that's really, like, if Virgil's not gonna fight Boachuk again, that's who they need to give a fight to. Is they need to make Virgil versus Conwell, because why else do you sign Charles Conwell if not to fight Virgil Ortiz? It doesn't make any sense for Golden Boy. Virgil needs opponents. That's a good opponent. It's a dangerous fight. But look, guys. On that note, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna get out of here. I got things I gotta take care of. But it was good talking to you. I don't like saying when I'm gonna be live next, because every time I say I'm gonna go live on a certain day, then something always happens. So I'm not gonna put a day on it, but I'll be live very early during next week. God willing, Monday. Not gonna lie tomorrow, but Monday I'll be live. God willing, if not Monday, then Tuesday. But look, a lot of content coming out on the channel. We're just getting closer and closer to 80,000, so I'm really excited about that. Keep supporting the channel. Keep supporting all things on True School Sports. And yeah, like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.